All right, we are live. We'll probably hang out and wait for some people to jump on, which is great. Guys, how you doing? Good to see you. It's a bummer to not be there in person with you, but how you guys holding up?
We
Good.
we have learned how to evolve with Zoom these days,
Yeah.
right? Like, who would have ever thought that you could connect with so many people around the country on a freaking daily basis without traveling all over?
Who knew
And
what our
stay
lives
COVID
would have been
safe.
like? That's amazing. Play it safe. Well, hopefully everyone's back on the water and the court. We have a good showing. So I think for all the attendees, we have Tony and Maggie, and we have kind of a voiceover also, a partner at ICL Academy, Ethan Lynn, who is on as well. But really just wanted to share with people before we kind of get started and have some exciting conversations. Please, everybody, this is very interactive. So there's a Q&A box. Definitely type in any questions. We will kind of get to them, throw them in, respond live. I think we all agree we love engagement and finding out what's on people's minds, because this is something very, very unique and something that I think the water polo world has been waiting for a long time. And the topic of the conversation is really how to harness your passion and balance academics, character, training. I don't know if it's kind of fun if you two, I'm sure everyone here knows both of you, but do you want to introduce the other person and say a little bit about Matt? Maybe Tony, you talk about Maggie. Maggie, you talk about Tony.
Yeah, um, so Maggie, right, being younger that she is. Anyway, one of the first times I ever met Maggie, which is one of the reasons we started the company together, we were doing a clinic, right? And I remember seeing her older sister, her brothers play, and her mom and dad. I knew her dad for a while, but she was, this little stud growing up, and I was on the, trying to,
Win some Olympics yourself, but
play games and trying to
Do something.
survive. And then I started doing clinics. I've done clinics my entire life. I was raised doing clinics with my dad and other coaches. And so I invited Maggie to come out one day. And I always have a portion. I think it's important that an athlete kind of speaks their opinion, right? And they talk about what their journey was and what their vision is, and try to inspire the kids. Well, Maggie's giving her, and I actually don't, I don't listen to the athletes because I'm like, they're pretty good. This is my only 30 minutes off. I'm going to go sit and eat and relax. Well, I'm eating and relaxing, and my dad's talking to me. I'm like, hey, I got to hear this. And this little girl asked Maggie, and she's giving this speech, and I'm just like, this is awesome. And she asked Maggie, she goes, how did you get to choose number 6? And Maggie looks right at her. And I thought she was just going to smack her in the face. And she's like, you don't choose your number, you earn your number. And the whole 2 minutes she talked about, I would have been any number in the world just to represent the country, my country, like to be on the Olympic team, all the hard work. And I got goosebumps hearing her talk. And then later on, watching her in the Olympics in her first in 208, 212, sorry, just dominate this enormous center who was one of the best in the world, as the little 18-year-old was just like, oh my God, this girl's such a stud. And now I get to work with her every day. So it's pretty cool.
Wow. All right. I hope someone talks to me about me like that. That's a great intro. I think that should be used for forever, but I do love that. And Maggie, how about Tony?
Yeah. So, I mean, if we're going to first time meeting, I think what's really cool about Tony and my relationship is just the mutual respect. But I wouldn't say it was mutual at first. Like he talked about, he didn't know me. I actually saw Tony for the first time live at Stanford. I went as like a little kid and got to watch a like exhibition game. And after the game, I was giddy to get Tony's signature, and used to watch all his videos and wanted to be just like Tony, on the women's side, obviously, and not quite there yet. 5-time Olympian, not too easy to hit that feat, but did follow him to Stanford, obviously. And so I think for me, what's been really cool about Tony is just his humility. Obviously, I mean, everyone knows the Azevedo name. I think it's easy for me to list, right? 5-time Olympian, silver medalist, Stanford NCAA champion, Catino Award, all of these things. But like he was just saying, the mutual respect that we have for one another, he gives to all the athletes he works with, and not just national team athletes, like with the 6-8 Academy right now, there's a mutual respect there, even if you're a 14-year-old girl who is just showing up for a camp. So there's so much to be learned from him. And I think he's just giving so much back to the sport. And, you know, I'm really lucky that we're partners and get to work together all the time. So started off with a signature. Now I could probably like do his signature for him. I see it all the time, but yeah, pretty fun. We're a good 6-8 team. That's for sure.
Absolutely. So love the 6-8. I mean, a little bit of background on myself and kind of how we all got together for those that don't know. You know, as a fan, I mean, just in general. So I'm Kirk Spahn, the founder of ICL Academy, and our mission was really to combine academics with what students were most passionate about and really engage them on a deeper level, both academically and through character, and weave in sort of the passion of the sport. And you two represent kind of the pinnacle of what that means. I mean, the definition of everything from the athlete, the scholar, the activist, giving back to the community and representing character. And, you know, I'm just a fanboy of every aspect of just the concept of being an Olympian and what that means. What people think of is sort of fame. What I think of is just dedication, the hours, the work, the discipline. I mean, what you sacrifice to be there. And, you know, for the most part, a majority of people and great athletes sacrifice their education. And the fact that, you know, both of you went to a place like Stanford, just the thought of, you know, getting into Stanford alone is such a huge feat. But to actually be, you know, a competitive, because in this day and age, if you're an NC, you know, if you're a Division I athlete, you're basically a pro athlete. You have to train like you're in the pros. There's not this massive difference, you know, as we all know. And so, you know, to be able to, you know, partner, talk to you guys and really create a platform whereby you can do what it is that you do so well. I mean, both of you being inspiring, being credible coaches, being credible role models, giving back, and creating a platform where people from all over can participate in that. And whether you're live or you're giving virtual coaching, as you sort of alluded to in the beginning, if people weren't there, you know, this opportunity, this pandemic, which has sort of shut down so much, has actually on the flip side kind of opened up a lot of doors and opportunities. And I think that we're going to be seeing that and sort of together, we're going to explore what that really means. And I think it can, you know, it's amazing. You can share your journeys and your coaching and, you know, everything that you are to people that don't have to jump in the water with you year round, but can also live other places, come and, you know, I call this world now, you know, online learning. It's really about a hybrid, right? You can kind of be anywhere, you can train and be part of a bigger community. So what we're embarking on here and whatever all the participants are probably excited to learn about is just the concept, you know, the first of its kind ever school and training that's dedicated, that understands what it takes to be an Olympic athlete, a water polo, but specifically for water polo, and specifically to have a group that understands what it is. Because, you know, as a tennis player, I understand what an athlete is, but getting in the water early in the morning, I mean, it's a different lifestyle. It's different than your friends who play music. It's different than your friends who play basketball. It's different than anything else. And so, you know, I think the way I'd like to just sort of go about is this conversation is really kind of talking about what you would go back and tell kind of your 15-year-old self. And we talk a little bit about perspective of blending training, academics, and what the sort of 6Ps mean, the passion, taking your passion and really giving it purpose, and then creating a process. So I'll kind of open it up to that, and sharing your own journeys. When I'll ask both of you the first one, when did you really become passionate, and how did you become passionate, and how did your passion for water polo turn into, I want to make this my purpose?
Yeah, well, first to just allude to what you're talking about, like when Maggie and I talked first about doing the academy, there was a big passion toward that was actually a big one of the top goals for us, because we both were lucky in the sense that we had amazing coaches in an area that water polo was popular and competitive. And now traveling around the world, you see there's so many athletes that don't have that, right? Obviously, when you talk about hard work, I can tell you from both our ends, and we'll talk about that in a second, of waking up at 5 a.m. and being who ultimately achieving your dreams is the hard work is extreme, right? But what the academy is about is, let's give these athletes from anywhere the ability to be the best that they can be, right? Some want to be Olympians, and I'm telling you right now, after just the 4 months, I see that possibility now. Some just want to be the best version of themselves, and we want to provide that, because otherwise it would be very difficult for them to achieve that in some of their areas. And one of the biggest things that we're excited about this partnership is one of the hurdles for us has been, we're so focused on dominating and not dominating, but inspiring each and every athlete. But there's one area that we're not doing anything in, and that's education. And that's something that, again, we grew up in, and Maggie's entire family, except her and her sister who broke free, went to Cal Berkeley. I knew from a young age Stanford was my dream, and education had to be. I knew I had friends that told me exactly how I needed to study and the grades I needed to get. But again, I'm talking about, I was in school in 2000. It's a totally different world now with the competitive edge, the lack of scholarships, the amount of athletes playing. And so why this is so beautiful to us, because it just we can now fully be engaged in that athlete and understand and know that we're fully creating this ultimate human being, and not just water polo, but in life, right?
It's a great way to put it. And I would say that's interesting. I would answer the first question kind of before Maggie goes about that, to your point, just to explain kind of, it says, the question was, what's the difference between 6-8 Sports Academy and ICL Academy? And I'll just kind of address that. What Tony and Maggie have created physically at 6-8, is so unique in the water polo world. And I'm sure everyone that plays water polo wants to be a part of it, but you're so limited in pool time, how many people you can have. And so when we met up, the idea is to expand 6-8 Academy sort of in partnership with ICL, where we really provide the academics and tailor it online for 6-8, so that ideally anyone, you could participate, you could be in ICL Academy water polo, which, hopefully it becomes, in a year or two, just the 6-8 Academy in general. So the idea is really, that it's a full-time online private school for grades 7 through 12 to do exactly what Tony's saying. Like, we understand what it takes to go to Stanford, to really understand what it takes on the academic side that we provide. And then you get the training. And even if you don't live in Southern California, you can be part of this school, get the coaching, and then hopefully come in and be there live as well. So if you can't come up year round and live there, we can create an extended program. So that's really what we're here to discuss. It's online private education, like no other, geared towards water polo athletes, and also the coaching, both virtually and the ability to be live with Tony and Maggie. So it's kind of the dream situation.
Yeah, the only thing I would add to kind of your first question with the academics, and with passion and with purpose, I think I get asked this a lot with, how do you balance well, now I'm not in school, but how did you balance school and sport, right? And both Tony and I were really fortunate to go to Stanford. Both got our masters. I got my master's at Stanford while I was kind of finishing up my water polo career. And I still am pursuing that greatness in academics. Like, I would love to go back to school, actually, because I feel like with water polo, that's my natural passion. I want to be an Olympian. I want to be great. I want to improve, like Tony was talking about. I want to be the best athlete I can be, right? But what's really interesting, and I think there's a fine line, and this is why I think the ICL Academy is so great, is people think that if I want to be great in water polo and I want to be great in my sport, I shouldn't put effort into other things. I should just only try to be great here, right? But effort and purpose and passion and trying to be great, that's a habit. That's a habit you create. And so if you start lacking, that purpose, that passion, that effort in your academics, you're creating a bad habit. And that bad habit might roll over into the water polo world, right? And so I think for me, I always want to emphasize this to athletes and to parents, is there's a way to be balanced. And yes, you have to have good time management. You have to have purpose so that you can get up at 5 a.m., do your water polo workout, and do your extra studying and tutoring, whatever you need to do to be at that academic level. But if you can create good habits out of the pool when it comes to academics, that's going to relate to actually how you are as an athlete as well. And so I think when it comes to balancing with that academic and athletic world, it's not putting all of your effort into just the athletic world. I think personally, and this has worked for both Tony and myself clearly, is can I put effort, that same effort I put into every practice, that same intention of wanting to be great. Maybe I'm not valedictorian, but I'm amongst the best in my class because I'm putting the effort in there. And I want to pursue that passion in academics, which now that habit translates over to my water polo career as well. It's not always butterflies and A's and winning games, right? But you created those habits. And that's important to me. And I know it's important to Tony, having that academic balance and even now with our work balance, right? And family and friends. And I think creating that habit is really important. And this is why the ICL Academy is here, is so that you can still create, this pathway to your possible dream school, right, in the academic world, as you also balance trying to pursue, this athletic greatness, whatever that means for you personally.
And so well put, by the way. I mean, that really gives a lot of clarity because, people need to understand, and I'm sure anyone here that's tuning in and listening, when you set your purpose to be an Olympian, you set the mark. You always train to be the best in the world. You don't train to be a good college player. You vision that championship and the discipline it takes. It's just a lot of schools don't really understand that. Normal schools are like kind of want you to fit into their mold, and then a lot of schools aren't even aware, or they almost get annoyed if you're training and you're a little late to school because you've been up since 5 training. It's almost a ding against you. Mm-hmm. And I think that what we really see and we want to foster is, building a community around that area where you're surrounded by other people with that dream that, you guys met out of a shared passion. You guys really had that even from different classes and age groups, but it was that shared. And I think that brings you to another sense, another level, because when you have been out there training at 5 a.m., really only the people that are out there training at 5 a.m. really understand what that's like, and then being in class. And so, we're really excited to sort of build that together. I don't think, and you can speak for me, that, have there been any other schools that really have been focused sort of just on water polo, both from the academics and the training that you guys have experienced?
No, I mean, that's where, and again, like you can look back into, I come from a different time, right? Before 2000 in high school, and they were very much supportive as to anything and everything I did. I graduated from high school my junior year. I took 0 period. I was up so that I took an extra class my freshman, sophomore, and junior year. I lifted weights before every single day of school. Then I finished school, finished my classes, and had 2 more trainings that night. And so
Yeah.
senior year, that was always the dream that I could take off and be invited to the national team, and it was reality. But the more and more I'm involved with the new era of school and grades and athletes, it's a lot more, right? They have this, right? I didn't really have this. They have to deal with their Instagram, their TikToks, and all the other outside, factors where there are these teachers, you're right, that don't understand, hey, this is very important that this athlete takes off for this week and goes here. How can they adjust and do it online? Well, they can't. They're not going to get a good grade. The unfortunate part is you cannot not get a good grade. So
Mhm.
what do you have to do? You have to stay home, miss out on these opportunities, these training opportunities. Instead of training, once or twice every day, you're maybe took 2 days off every week or for a certain period of time. And the reality is I started doing that a year ago when I retired. When I was 14, I never had those days off, but that's because I had that dream. And so this is, I think, the future where ultimately, if your dream is to be great, then you got to allow them to be great. And that means that everyone has to work together, and you need a school system. You need, same as parents, you need a balance with your parents to make sure that you're spending quality time with your family. Well, the same goes with school and sport. We need to be more balanced than I think we are right now. And it's only the athletes that are hurting.
I appreciate that. I mean, it so rings true. And what Maggie touched on is also so real, that there is this, she really drew upon the threads and the combination of that. It's not mutually exclusive. I feel like as a college athlete, when I was growing up, similar to your time, that there was sort of this, oh, you're this, your academics were here, your training's here, and they didn't sort of interweave. And yet, as you become adults, you realize, wait, who I am as a person is fully intertwined with that. And so I look back at some of the courses that were built out at ICL Academy, like sports psychology, the power of routines and focus and mental toughness. I mean, these are grades where I was like, why didn't I have that class when I was in school training? Like, imagine, you can actually interweave, because the way you prepare mentally for a match, for the nationals, for anything big, is really the same mindset you prepare on a test or SATs. And so there, if you don't separate the two and you realize, and it comes down to sort of your character and what that is. So I'll kind of say that, just again, I'm sure everyone here kind of knows your stories, but when did you know, like, what was that point that it turned like, I like water polo, I think it's awesome, I want to do it all the time, to then like, no, I want to make this, like, this is me, like, this is going to be potentially the rest of my life, I'll be involved with this sport, your purpose.
I can go on that one just because it's probably a little bit more relevant. So for me, I started playing when I was really young. I started playing when I was 8. And like Tony mentioned, my family is a sport family, aquatic family, water polo family. So that idea of sport and playing it in college and trying to pursue a national team kind of was around me as a kid. But I never really called it my passion per se. I knew I wanted to be great. That's something from a kid, just wanting to be the best self, was something my parents always taught me. Whether it came to school, friendship, family, just strive to be amongst the best and bring your best self to everything you do. Right. And so for me, starting water polo when I was 8, it was just a fun thing I was doing, along with soccer, basketball, swimming, gymnastics. And then I would say when I was 11, which is still really young, but when I was 11, I tried out for the 14 under national team, just the zone, ODP, all of that, the pipeline. And I ended up making it like the top 40. And we got to go to Los Al, where I train every day now. And I got a USA t-shirt, like USA water polo, and one swimsuit. And I was on cloud 9. The ability to go and play with people that I had seen at these tournaments, who were my competitors and who I admired and who were older than me and I looked up to as competition, right? All of a sudden we were now in the same place, getting to represent the USA, which really we weren't. We just had made like a top 40 group, but it really hit me then. And so when I went back to my club team, It was kind of right around that time period of my life that I started pulling away from other sports, and soccer was the toughest one for me to end up quitting. But for me, I realized.
How old were you when you left soccer?
14.
Okay, so that's a separate, we'll put a pin in that, but other sports.
Yeah. I mean, I always tell people to play more sports, because with water polo, I think that's why I'm a good water polo player, is because I played soccer and basketball. So I understand different aspects of the game. I was on a fast track similar with Tony. So I made the senior national team at 15. So it was probably a good thing I quit soccer at 14. But if you're not on that track, I mean, you should play multiple sports in high school. I think that's great. But for me, I would say I was really young when I realized that, my passion could become my true purpose, and I could really dive into that. And it was when I was 15 and I watched Tony and my sister, Jessica Steffens, at the 2008 Olympics. I was a fangirl, and I went to Beijing and watched both of them win silver, which was insane. That was when I remember watching at least the women's team and thinking, I can do that. Like, I'm going to be there. And it was the next summer I made the team and got to play with my sister. So I was definitely, and I'm sure Tony has a similar story. We were really fortunate, like we've talked about, to make it so young. We're really, really fortunate in that. And so I would say our probably our passion to purpose to process timeline is a bit earlier than others, but for me, that was really where it kicked in.
I mean, by the way, you touched on so many points, and there is a difference. And just a random question before Tony goes, because I don't know as much about water polo. I mean, is it one of the sports, do you think you have to start or commit young? Because you said it is really important. It is good to play. You actually can kind of pick it up later. I'm a tennis player, and we debate it all the time. I mean, I've been playing since I was 5, so it was.
I mean, I think like anything, the more experience you have, the better, right? So by the time Tony was a 5-time Olympian, he knew so many different aspects of the game, right? He's developed this knowledge from experience. So definitely the more experience you have, the better you're going to get if you're actually absorbing that and putting it into your play. But for me personally, I did swim team all the way through high school. I did water polo all the way through high school. I did soccer right up until basically freshman year of high school. I did basketball pretty much right up until 7th grade. And I think for the sport of water polo, it is really great to do other sports at that youth level, because you're developing skills like teamwork. With soccer, you're learning angles and cross passes and penalties and defense, offense. Basketball, you're learning passing lane, center guard, counterattack. So I think for water polo, it's different. But I will say, if it is something you want to do, and Tony probably has a better comment to this, if you do want to pursue it in college and make that your passion, yes, you should put extra effort into that one sport. Like, there is a priority there that I always had. Water polo was my number one priority. Well, with academics, but on the athletic side, it was always water polo. So if I had to miss a swim practice to go to water polo, or I had to miss soccer practice to do the water polo, I would do that.
So imagine, I mean, we've talked about, the concept really, as we grow this online, unique to water polo, start with a small group, get a bigger group, and then actually base the academics. You got my mind spinning. And imagine, when you're talking about learning angles, imagine if you're in a physics class and you're learning velocity, but you're learning it through water polo. And imagine your angles, you're in geometry, but you're using angles, how to score, how to defend. I mean, to me, that's, my purpose is, and I think you guys are in agreement, to create more engaged students that are hungry to learn more about the game. Imagine if the academics actually tailored to that. So you understood the mechanics more and then applied it. You're now a better student, and you're a better athlete for it. And you're more engaged. We talk, the three of us have talked about offline all the time. I mean, that power of full engagement and being engaged, where so many young athletes are engaged during practice and then like turn off at school, or like, it's like, I'm aware, listening to my coaches, but I'm not there, and how to blend that process. But anyway, Tony, I'll let you kind of deal. That was great, Maggie.
You're 100% correct, and I'd say one of the biggest weaknesses that I see in the future athletes is just their full knowledge of the game, right? And whether that be because of the amount or lack of water polo that they've seen and played at a high level, or the lack of coaches that they've been able to talk to, or the fact that there's just so much going on. You're right. I mean, these athletes, they're going to school for numerous hours. They're coming home. They're doing homework all day long. Their heads are somewhere else. Then they have to show up and practice. Are their heads really where they need to be? Are they really fully engaged in every single practice where you're taking something from every single moment of that practice? Because that's where, if it's not, then your growth is at a much slower rate. That's one of the reasons we even started working with VR, because we have to figure out a way to get athletes thinking and just fully engaged in the sport. And in smaller sports, it's harder, right? In bigger sports, you're seeing more of these academies, you're seeing more of these opportunities. But in water polo, there hasn't been anything. There isn't anything. And so if we can take an athlete and get them in, the inspiration, the practices, but also here. I'm 6 foot. I'm 6'1", actually. 6'1" on a good day.
5'9" on a good day.
I'm 6'1", and for 4 Olympics, until this guy called the Mosquito came in, I was the smallest player in the world for 4 Olympics. There was not one player in the world that was smaller than I was, and it's crazy. It's crazy to think that. And but again, like, did I start at a crazy early age? I started at 8, but I was baseball, man. That's what I was passionate about. But once I became passionate at 14, I was all in. All in. And what separated me from the rest, I was quick. I was a good shooter, but it was here, right? Yeah. It was the ability to understand how to communicate with every athlete. It was the ability to how to get the most out of every athlete. It was the ability to read a situation and make the right decision, or get the players to make the right decision. And the only reason that I was able to be that player was because I was so engaged in every practice I was in. I was so engaged in every game I watched. I didn't just go to a game and watch. I was in the game, right? I didn't just practice to get in shape and look good at the beach. I went to practice because I wanted to be the best. And again, I think it's harder and harder now, and with what we're seeing. And I ultimately think, I saw a question on there about the vision of 6'8", and right now the vision is these athletes can excel mentally and education wise with ISL, and sport wise and leadership wise and mentally wise with us as well. But ultimately, we want our own place with multiple sports and athletes. It's a school, right? And we're creating the greatest school that we believe in the world when it comes to water polo and school, and hopefully other sports as well. So that's the ultimate dream, and I think we can all agree on that. But
exactly, great, really well put. And I think that leadership aspect of ICL takes into account leadership as, not everyone to be a leader, but to understand positions and where you are, that we actually require a leadership and a service component, because I believe that, again, building character, when you do commit that, kind of giving back, such a big part that people don't understand about being an Olympian and representing your country, and what that represents, not just as an athlete, but a position to give back to communities. I mean, you have that ability to spread, water polo and what it means. It transcends, right? I mean, baseball is sort of well known, America's pastime, but water polo is so international. When you travel, you have so many, and we've shared stories of, the Croatians and everything else. I mean, I guess sort of the next sort of phase from finding a purpose is, people are probably wondering, the process that you guys had, like when you commit, what the sacrifices and sort of what you would recommend people to do that are finding that dream. And I'm sort of hearing it like, don't give up on other sports, keep it going. But what is, the mindset and kind of the training routines that you guys went through? Just share a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, for myself, being a smaller athlete, I knew I had to be strong, and I had to be quicker than everyone else. So I sat down with my dad and the trainer, and we realized that I needed to lift, right? And I didn't need to lift to be the biggest guy out there. I needed to be strong. I needed to be able to hold my own, and I needed to lift so that I didn't get injured when I'm playing as many games as I'm playing at a young age. So I would wake up at 5:30 every morning, make my own lunch, eat a quick breakfast, take off to the gym, train for an hour, shower at the gym, and then the trainer dropped me off at school for 0 period. I did that until 2. Then I had practice 2 to 4 with my high school, either water polo or swim team. Then I'd go home and study, and then I'd find another practice at night, right? There were club practices, there were JC, junior college practices, there was whatever it was. I joined a swim team for 1 year, which was terrible. I hate swimming. But I knew that was an important aspect. And, you know, I went from a kid who couldn't break a minute in the 100 freestyle, which I don't know if you know what a minute is, Kirk, but that's pretty damn slow, to to a 40 to a 48, you know, in the 100 freestyle as a 2 years later, right? 2 years, all of a sudden becoming one of the fastest out there, and that was, and all of a sudden putting on 30 pounds in a smart way. And it was those 2 years that helped me stay healthy for 5 Olympics, that helped me be the fittest, the fastest, the quickest. And then along with what I always had was here. Yeah. I mean, that was the journey, right? And it never got easier. It never did. And people look back and they're like, and you can ask Maggie now, she's in it, and I hear it. You know, you look back and you go, I mean, 5 Olympic, 1 Olympic, whatever it is. So, 20 years. And when I think about it, oh my goodness, we would train some days 9 hours. Some days we swam 12,000. We went on the craziest trips, but there was never a moment I didn't like it. I didn't even think about it. I loved it, right? I loved it. And now I go, wow, I did that? I'm crazy, And Maggie, I hear it from her too, like comes home. She's like, oh my goodness. And she's all smiling. And I'm like, you're crazy. You just did 4 hours of swim sets and scrimmaging.
Amazing. I mean, but I think you made a good point, and I'll kind of correct you in that you said 20 years, but I think for all those listening here and watching, that's 20 years as an Olympian. How many years before that? You said it's 8. So tack on like another 10 years of training, since you were 8 years old. Like the hours and the numbers just start to rack up. Malcolm Gladwell talks about 10,000 hours. It's like a drop in the bucket. So yeah, I mean, that's great. I mean, those stories are amazing. And I guess Maggie kind of same to you. What and it's fascinating now because Tony, you get the perspective of looking back, like, wow, you kind of hung up the Olympic side. Maggie, you're going for it, right? You're still in it to win it. Are we going to see you in 5? Are you going to see you in 5 Olympics?
Well, what would 5 would be? 5 would be LA for her.
Ooh, hometown crowd. Wait, so what do we think here? Let's get a little crowd participation on that one. That
would be great. I would love to make it that far, but one day at a time, one practice at a time. That's how it works.
I mean, isn't that amazing in sports? Coming from a tennis angle, what makes, you guys are probably familiar with Rafael Nadal, like what makes him such a machine is that every ball has a purpose. Like the guy is never, whether it's his warm up, his practice, it's like every point has a purpose. Every point's a new match. I mean, just that mindset, right? And how do you teach that? Like that, you guys are both talking about like, these are huge odds, Tony, when you talk about seeing Maggie just like crushing, these huge people. I mean, how do you, if you're talking to someone, how do you build that mindset?
I mean, I think, and sorry if I cut off earlier, I think one thing that is really important to think about for mindset is it's not given to you, for sure. Yes. If you talk to me and Tony, we will help you create a mindset. We will help you pursue that. Right. Or we will help you set goals. But I think what's really important is that it does have to come from within. It has to come from you personally. And that's what's going to have the most power, right? Being told to do something, there's only so much of that you can put your effort into. But when it's you yourself, and that's why I think having a passion, whatever it is, or having a purpose, having that overlaying purpose, right? I always call it your why. What is your why?
Sure.
And from there, you can come up with, your different goals, the how are you going to succeed? How are you going to get to that why? How are you going to make that why a reality? Right. And so with mindset, I think it does help to have little, tricks like that here and there. Write down what your why is, write down how you're going to get there. What are your priorities? Like Tony was talking about, I had the same schedule, like wake up early so I could prioritize my fitness and getting stronger, prioritize my academics so I could make sure I could get to Stanford, prioritize being, a good teammate, because that's what being a water polo player and good person is about. So not only, writing down those little things and understanding your priorities, but I think it's important to kind of self-reflect and think about, okay, yeah, if I do want to be like Nadal and have a purpose with every ball I hit, I have to really understand why I'm doing it. Yeah. If you're just going because someone's telling you to do it, you're probably not going to have much purpose behind every practice, and like Tony was talking about his story, to get to where he is today. And even when I think about mine, it wasn't because somebody told me this is what you should do, or this is what, for sure. It is good to hear when people believe in you. And I think that's a different aspect, but it was, what Tony said, I want to be an Olympian. I want to go to Stanford. And so I think it does have to kind of come from you as an individual, and everyone is different. Yep. Every single person is different. You can want to be an Olympian, but for a different reason than Tony did, or for a different reason than I did. But the fact that it's from yourself, that's the mindset, right? That's where you kind of pull from when you're creating those mindsets and trainings and in games and all of that.
And that mindset, I guess, to kind of steer it back towards academics. I mean, what have you guys seen? You guys have now been kind of working with kids and coaching, and, what are the pain points that you've seen, in sort of traditional schools, or, when you really want to be competitive and balancing the education, and again, why this makes sense? Like, what have you seen lacking? Because I know for me, it's tough, even if you're at an online school or homeschool, that there's community, and to understand water polo is critical. But kind of what would be some of those things that you guys have seen?
For us, it's the individual, right? What separates what we do at the academy is, look, for now, yes, that we have athletes in all different schools, so we've seen it, right? And in the future, hopefully we can have it only with you guys. But what separates us from what we're doing is that we don't have a team. We don't have to try and put people in positions that they're not to win a meaningless tournament, right? What we are is focused on every individual. We focus on how do we understand each athlete, motivate each athlete, inspire each athlete to be the best that they could be, right? And it's the same in school, right? As a school, a lot of times, and I'm not saying all of them, but I'm saying a lot of what I've seen is it's just a program. This is what you go through. This is what you got to go. Every kid does it. They've done it for the last 10, 15, 20 years. Here's the book on history. That's that. And this is this. And we're going forward, and I'm checking boxes, and we all look good. Kids are getting grades, instead of what is this athlete ultimately, or what is this student ultimately, passionate about? What do they want to be? What do they want to do? And if there's something that correlates with the sport that they love that can help them succeed, not maybe in the sport, but in something else, that we can connect with that athlete. And that to me is the biggest difference. It's hard enough trying to connect with each teacher and a student hour and this and that, when you can finally have something dedicated and understanding that, hey, this athlete loves and is passionate about this sport, but they also want to do this. Well, let's create this curriculum and make sure, yeah, you're going to know everything that everyone else is being taught, but so much more, because we care about you and not just looking good on a national basis, right?
And that's the goal of ICL, and that's what we're trying to create with you that I think is that distinct difference. So I appreciate that. Again, I mean, that is that differentiator and understanding. Maggie, any pain points you've seen?
I would just say, and I mean, I'll always be really honest with whoever, we're working with athletes. I had an amazing academic upbringing. And I personally wouldn't trade it for anything, but I also lived at a different time. And like we've talked about, we're really lucky. Like I had good coaches. I had a really strong competition in the Bay Area. I had the club teams. I also was at a really amazing high school. So for me, I wouldn't have traded that. And I want to make sure that people also know we support you doing what works for you on an individual level. But I think the pain point that we're trying to hit here with ICL and our partnership is there aren't people who have been as fortunate and lucky as Tony and I have been, where we have good coaches, we have good competition. We also have a good high school where we're able to get to the Stanfords or the UCLAs, the Cals, the Harvards. So I think for me, what I kind of see is like Tony's talking about, those individuals who aren't as fortunate and who don't have the access to what we did growing up. And so what we're trying to do with ICL and 6-8 is how can we provide that access to more people so they can, try to pursue their dream in the best way possible, although they may not have the resources to get there right now. How can we provide those for them? So that's something I always want to be really honest. And that's kind of the pain point I see. But I think it's also important for people to remember, like, everyone's situation is different, right? And so that's kind of where Tony hit it really well there, is those individuals who don't have the access or resources. This is where you can really get that value.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. And I think the purpose here is to, not just be average, right? I mean, most schools, when you sort of switch to online, and we've seen this all happen, right? Even in COVID, like the whole world went online, whereas online learning before, people just didn't know. And especially parents were like, oh, that's some kind of, creepy thing. And now everyone's done it, but have they done it well? And so what we try to do, and I think we've shared our sort of mantras together, is, respect tradition, but embrace tomorrow. So, understanding that the effort put in has to have the purpose, that coaching, doing the right things also applies in sort of a school, where if you can relate it and really personalize it, right? When it becomes yours, when you make it yours. That was the last P on personalization and perspective. So I think I'll probably, wrap it up with you guys by, letting you share your kind of thoughts on this and where you see it happening. Or we're definitely wrapping it up. Yes.
Yeah, I think Tony, go. I think this is perfect for you. And then, go ahead, wrap it up.
Yeah, no, I think ultimately what I see is, this partnership in the future, like we talked about, becoming a brick and mortar and being an area that we are spouting out not only your top level athletes, but successful human beings, right? People that use sport to succeed in other aspects. And it's funny, everyone always asks, like, why are you staying involved in water polo? You graduated Stanford, you got your business at Harvard, and say Maggie's, right, when she's done, she's going to get the same thing. And it's like, well, A, this is my passion. Mm-hmm. And B, being at, through sport, it's helped me understand that, I want to go, there is no, oh, no, there's nothing after water polo. Why? I told people 3 years ago that we'd use technology to grow the sport, and everyone laughed at us. And now all of a sudden we have 2 apps, and we believe we're changing the sport. And I think sport is so important. We have CEOs talk to us all the time, and I'm sure you do now, Maggie, even more, saying, we're going to pick this guy because they're an athlete. They know how hard it is to be an athlete, how difficult decisions you have to make, leadership, right? Dealing with failures, dealing with success. And if we can merge those two, there's our successful person in life. And that's what we want, right? My dad even said it today, his the biggest success isn't winning a tournament. It's winning the love of all your athletes. And ultimately, that's what we care about. We care about every athlete that comes through us, every student athlete that comes through us. We want to give you the best. And that's why we've made this partnership. Otherwise, we wouldn't be doing it, right? So that's been our goal all in all, is to have all athletes love and respect us and be successful later on in life, whatever it may be. And we want to give them the tools to get there.
That's super inspiring, and I'm gonna kind of hang out and answer some questions for a bit. But you guys are, again, I think creating this hybrid model is even more exciting, right? That when the idea of taking a brick and mortar facility, but growing it so you don't, you can actually affect and reach so many more people by having this virtual component mixed with the live and in person. That's the future. That's really taking advantage of that use of technology and sort of building that community where people can be in the same school and in the same sort of atmosphere environment, but they don't have to physically be together, but you can kind of coordinate through various areas. I mean, I hope that the brand 6-8 spreads not just from Orange County, but can really spread globally. And I think that alignment is really, really important. So I'll kind of get to a lot of the questions. I know you guys have to run, but this has been really, inspiring and hopefully the first of many conversations together. And I look forward to seeing you guys soon. And thanks so much again. Hopefully we'll be building the 6-8 Academy, in partnership with ICL for many decades. We'll be talking about remember when that first kind of webinar announcing it. So thank you guys.
Awesome.
So, thank you, Kirk. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thanks for participating.
Look forward to seeing you.
All right, take care, guys.
So there were a couple of questions just about ICL in general, the program and that partnership. And I should kind of give a bit of background that ICL is actually the umbrella in the umbrella of the Dwight family of schools. So my family has been in education for over 100 years. My father's been running a school for 55 years. I created the online programs. We have campuses all over the world, and we espoused the International Baccalaureate program. And my passion was really, how do we create these kind of hub areas of excellence with great online delivery that hasn't been done before. So we have a partnership. There's some questions about AP classes and the accreditation, and we follow the understanding by design model. So all of our classes are NCAA approved. Our kids currently are enrolled in IB classes and AP classes in a partnership with Dwight. We try to create small seminars. So the way that our courses are structured is that it's a bit like a college schedule. So the difference in the online world is that a majority of online schools are either just asynchronous, meaning you're kind of solo doing it by yourself. And we actually do small seminar classes that meet once a week. And then we have one-on-ones with students and teachers also once a week, or as much as needed in the class. So we can actually take you through some of the courses and how really unique and different the ICL platform is right now. We currently have around 60 students involved, but the idea is to create an entire water polo kind of community and hub to end up being its own school in partnership with Maggie and Tony, so that you can be part of this community, do your classes, and then be able to train with them or to attend. And even if you live not in California, you can travel to train with them, come back, but you're really focused on your craft and are getting great academics through that. So I really, really appreciate kind of everyone and having them. This is really, really a new approach at what online learning can be. And by partnering, I don't know if they're parents, if they're just students on the line, but if they're parents listening, having that juxtaposition of Stanford and Olympians are so critical with a backing of a great curriculum. And I'll just sort of end and emphasize of what we do in our curriculum. The understanding by design is we take students through foundation to application to mastery. And the application is, how does this relate to my world? How does this course relate to my passion, what I'm spending so much of my time on? And then the mastery is really when it's personal to me. And that's when education really, when students aren't just taking a test to get a grade, to get the answers and then forget it. It's really applying it to their lives and going forward. So, we have a lot more questions, and I just have to say that, we want to follow up with all of you, give a lot more details, meet in person, walk you through some of the classes. Tony and Maggie are available. And so it's great. And, our diploma, we get a high school diploma. We have different cost structures for the program with Maggie and Tony. It depends if you'll be doing the live sessions or if you're going to be also just in the online school program. We have one program where you get coaching, virtual coaching from Tony and Maggie, webinars, access to them personally, as well as your private school model. And that is, we give financial aid. The sticker price actually is $13,000. So we've gotten a grant from a major nonprofit during COVID, because this is, if you all know online schools, it's very different to try to get a private school education. Most private schools cost, upwards of $20,000. And we really wanted to try to create true value and understanding every family's unique journey and really grow this. So the most important thing is, if you want to reach out to us directly, my email is kirk@ICL Academy. We have admissions at ICL Academy. You can learn more at iclacademy.org. We have iclacademy.org/68. And, just looking forward to following up with each and every one of you. I thank you for attending, and look forward to meeting you all. So have a great holiday season, and hopefully you're all staying happy and healthy and continuing to train hard. Take care.